Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you very much, Kerry, for the invitation to come and speak to WallCAP. I very much enjoy doing these things. And you do such great work up and down the valley and across the whole length of Hadrian's Wall. So it's great to be able to support you. So thank you very much for the invitation. Well, in this presentation, I'm going to just put forward some of the things that Tyne Valley Community Rail Partnership has been working on, explain a little bit about what we do, and hopefully entertain you for a little bit of time. So please stay with us, and any questions, please drop me a line at the end of the presentation, contact us on social media. So let's make a start. The Newcastle Carlisle railway line is one of the world's oldest, certainly the first cross-country line in the UK. So it's the first line going right across from almost coast to coast. Opened in various sections, but right at the very outset, the company was keen on tourism. And I think that's where I'm going to start tonight, is to explore some of the links between the railway line and Hadrian's Wall. This little slide comes from a book published in 1837. The line had literally just opened. As you're probably aware, the main reason for the first section being opened from Hexham down to Blaydon was lead. They were stockpiling the lead, waiting for the railway line to open. This new technology was just revolutionising the way that goods were moved. But very quickly, the directors saw the potential for tourism. And this is early on, 1837, and they were already saying, we're going to be on the national stage. That carried on into the 1840s, when Days Out were just at the very infancy, just beginning. And here you've got a reproduction advert from 1842 talking about a special train to Gilsland Spa and Carlisle. And if you look down at the bottom of that advert, a band of music will accompany the train. And those of you who've followed our work over the last few years will know that before lockdown, we were running music trains, folk trains. So there's nothing new under the sun. And later on, I'll explain how we've used music right up to the current day. But maybe one day we'll be able to replicate that day out and have a day to Gilsland once again by train. In the 1850s, tourism started to get really serious. And in 1850, Frank Graham of Newcastle published a handbook to the Newcastle and Carlisle Railway. And this was really aimed at the tourist. The introduction says, many of the old castles and other ruins well known to readers of Sir Walter Scott and to the lover of antiquities, the Roman wall, will be found along this route. So here you have tourism right at the outset, right at the beginning of that great peak in the Victorian time. And if you look at the map inside the book, it's very clear that the railway line saw its positioning as being part of the landscape. And here's the map of the railway line from Newcastle to Carlisle, showing the line of the Roman wall running adjacent in some places. And you go through into the 50s, British Rail used that fantastic artwork showing the Roman wall. And again, it was very much get out and enjoy the landscape. Come and see what we've got to offer. And we've kept that theme right through to the present day. Some of you will remember that we had a tourism intern in 2018, 2019. And one of his jobs was to design the stand that we would take to Glasgow Central for an event called Community Rail in the City. He came up with the idea of a 15-foot long wall, which the Platform Painters at Haltwhistle beautifully painted for us, as you can see there. We take it, or we have taken it, to all sorts of places, and it always draws attention. People always want to come and ask us about the wall, find out who painted it, find out why we're there, have conversations about how they can come and explore the area. So we love it to bits, and we just get so many positive comments. This was us in May 2019 at Glasgow Central, for those of you who might recognise Glasgow Central. We were booked in to go back in 2020, and then of course the pandemic hit. We'd even hoped we might get back at the end of June this year for the same event, but unfortunately it's been pulled. It is in the diary for 2021. So if this is something that excites you, if you would like to come and spend some time with us in Glasgow, talking to people about the wall, talking to people about days out from Glasgow, places they can go to experience the wall, then please drop us a line, because we're always looking for volunteers. In 2019, we talked to over 800 people that day, and we found it was a really open audience. People wanted to know about how they could travel to this area. So it was well worth all the effort, and a very, very long day to take the wall to Glasgow. Now, through this presentation, I've built in 4 little quiz questions. So I'm going to give you just a second or two to grab a piece of paper and jot them down. They're just for fun. I'm afraid there's no prizes at the end of it, but let's test your knowledge on a few things. So without using your fingers, without counting, how many stations are there between Newcastle and Carlisle, excluding Newcastle and Carlisle? And at the end, I'll tell you the answers. Okay. So let's look a little bit at Tyne Valley Community Rail Partnership, who we are and what we do. We were established in 2004. We're a not-for-profit company, limited by guarantee. We're 1 officer a week, that's me, and I work 30 hours a week. And we have a wonderful, wonderful arrangement of volunteers, directors, press officer, photographer, community ambassadors, and we work very closely with our station adoption groups along the line. And it's a bit of a cliche, but I certainly wouldn't be able to do a tenth of what I do if it wasn't for our volunteers and our directors. Each of our directors holds a specific portfolio, and they're really responsible for driving that forward, coming up with ideas and making some connections in that. So they do a phenomenal amount of work each year, and I'm very, very grateful to them. We were also the first community rail partnership to receive Department for Transport accreditation on the Northern network. Very, very large area of the country that Northern serve, and to be the first community rail partnership to be recognised by the Department for Transport that we have sound governance, that we're doing what they want us to do, was a very, very good feather in our cap. We are not the Rail Users Group. The Tyne Valley Rail Users Group is a separate organisation. We work very closely with them, and their chair sits on our board. And they tell us what it's like for passengers on the ground, what it's like to actually travel. And they're very, very happy to receive inquiries about new membership. So please look them up and maybe consider joining them. So what is community rail? Well, we've got a strategy. The Department for Transport rewrote the community rail strategy in 2018, and that was published 2018-2019. The Department for Transport asked us to base our work on 4 pillars: on providing a voice for the community, on promoting healthy, sustainable and accessible travel, supporting social and economic development, and bringing communities together, supporting diversity and inclusion. So when you think about it, that's actually quite a wide-ranging remit. And there's few things that in a sense don't fit in there. And obviously tourism fits in there, in both providing healthy, sustainable, accessible travel and in supporting social and economic development. Well, you need your teeth in to say all of that. So who do we work with? Obviously the rail industry, the train operators, Northern, Cross Country, TransPennine Express, LNER, Avanti, Network Rail, and we try and have strategic conversations with groups like Transport for the North, Rail Delivery Group, Department for Transport. Now some might be thinking, well, I've never seen Cross Country or TransPennine or Avanti on this line. They don't serve any of the stations between Newcastle and Carlisle. And that's quite right, but they still are very big supporters of our work. They fund us, We can apply for project funding to their various pots, and that's because we intersect with their routes at either Carlisle or Newcastle. So we really do work across the rail industry. We have a number of shareholders. The World Heritage Site, Hadrian's Wall, is on that list. Northumberland National Park, we have our shareholders include community partnerships in the valley, special interest groups, town, parish councils. We also have quite a large education portfolio. So we work with the Rail Academy, Newcastle College, Northumbria University. We've taken Matthew as an intern, and we have other pieces of work with them. We have a very good schools offer, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. And we work with youth groups along the valley as well. We also work with charities and other community groups. So Journey Enterprise, for a couple of years, ran the tea and coffee kiosk at Hexham for us. So you may well have bought some coffee from them in the past. We work with Zigzag, which is a charity in Haltwhistle for adults experiencing isolation. We work with Haltwhistle Partnership, Hexham Art Group, so many organisations through the valley. Some of the businesses we've worked with, Ready Steady Knit of Prudhoe, Arch Northumberland, and of course tourism providers along the wall. So we are a bridge between our communities and the rail industry. We are not alone. The community of community rail partnerships is now over 60 right across the UK. And if you wonder why the rail industry puts so much money and so much support into community rail partnerships, and that's underpinned by Department for Transport, then the two graphics on the screen answer that question. The social value of volunteers is over 27 million, and on community rail lines, then the passenger increase has been somewhere between 35 and 42% over a 10-year period. And we can point to that on the Tyne Valley at many of the stations too. So community rail partnerships do pay back the investment that is made by the rail industry. Our resources. Well, there's me 30 hours a week. When we bid for money for a project to do a piece of work, then we build in some project hours for that to pay a project officer. So my time is not spent managing a distinct project, but taking a wider view. So we are able to offer some employment for people, just depending what we've got on at the time. So we're trying to just increase that, think about ways that we can work on more projects that might just provide a little bit of work for someone. And as I've said before, directors, board members, and volunteers. Our building resource. Well, many of you will be familiar with this little building. You may also have been inside it. This is the little booking hall at Haltwhistle Station. We've held the lease since about 2016, and we refurbished it during that time. Second little quiz question. When was the old booking hall at Haltwhistle built? So I've got three choices on the screen then. I'll let you just have a think and jot down A, B, or C. So in that little building, if you haven't been inside, is a ticket rack. And we have filled those racks with about 48,000 reproduction. And we use those when school parties come to visit us. They have great fun doing a role play exercise with buying and selling tickets. They're also a talking point at open days, and it's something I can take around the country. I can carry a few tickets with me, and it's a little promotion as well. So there we have some school kids buying and selling some tickets, really enjoying themselves. Our other education work is to take or offer placements for Year 12 students or students at college, university, who are looking for shorter placement than perhaps a year internship that we offered Matthew. So this was another Matthew who joined us for a week, and we do a very bespoke placement. It's not well, there you go, there's a sheet, follow it. We ask the young people what they're interested in, what they need to get out of it for their course, and we design the placement around those interests and needs, and it works well. And then this is the Rail Academy, who came out for a day in September, I think just before lockdown, so it must have been 2019. And they came to have a look at the bridges in Haltwhistle, the different constructions. We opened up the old signal box, so they had a look in a real signal box rather than the mock-up back in college. They had a look at the buildings, look at the old ticket hall, and here they are being addressed or chatted to by Alex Bray, one of our stakeholder managers who works for Cross Country, and he was explaining his journey in the rail industry and the job that he now does. So both the Rail Academy and schools, we offer a really good package. Working with Northern, we will offer any school, Newcastle, Carlisle, any school that can get to a station, a free day out. So that's free travel on the railway to Haltwhistle, a range of activities that we can work with the teacher to develop. My time for the day is free. To say use of the building is free. We sometimes even throw in a packet of biscuits as well. And the teachers and the pupils have a great day, and they can do all sorts of curriculum links based on the journey and based on their time at Haltwhistle. So if you work with schools, if you know any teachers, please do drop them my email, and I'm very happy to come out and talk to teachers about what we offer. This was the beginning of the internship, and it's there just as a marker and as an acknowledgement of the money that Cross Country gave us to employ Matthew for the year. So we're very delighted with that. Matthew took a year out of his business degree that he was doing with Northumbria University. He left us to go back and finish the third year of his degree, and we were delighted when he graduated with a first-class degree. So of course, I'm sure that was the year he spent with us and the problem solving he did in taking Hadrian's Wall to Glasgow Central. I don't think there would have been any other placement that asked a student to do that. So what do we do? Well, I'm sure many of you will have noticed the work that's been going on at Haltwhistle with these two buildings. It's been going on for quite a long time now, but I can assure you the standard of job and the level of the finish in the buildings is really outstanding. You'll be delighted when you see it. So what we're doing there is improving the waiting area in each building, and the rest of the building, because you may have noticed that the waiting area in each of the buildings probably about a third, and the other 2/3 of the building was derelict. It was shut up, boarded up, and no one ever saw inside it. So we're taking down that boarding, we're completely stripping it out, redoing it, and there will be small little office areas for rent. So if you know any people who are interested in crafting but want another space, who are starting a business, or who want to move their business out of their spare room, then please again drop us a line. Our secretary, our company secretary, who again many of you will know, Julie Gibbon, she has been working tirelessly on this project for many years now. And my next question is about how much money has Julie raised for the refurbishment of these two buildings? Answers A, B, or C. May alter your answer if I tell you that Julie won Outstanding Volunteer Contribution of the Year at the Community Rail Awards in 2019. We were delighted for her. It was just such such a way to say thank you was to give her a national award. So we were really, really chuffed. And Julie was rather delighted too. So what else do we do? Well, we work closely with the station adoption groups for each station. And that's been quite hard over the last 18 months or so, because through each of the lockdown periods, Northern has had to say, we can't allow anyone on the stations, so please stay at home. And that's been hard for the station adopters, and sometimes hard for the plants as well, who are so lovingly looked after. But just a couple of examples there. There's Hayden Bridge, looking beautiful, with a trough of flowers, and Blaydon at Christmas time. I'd love to tell you that our lead on the station adoption team at Blaydon, Joseph, knitted all those decorations, but he put an appeal out on some of the local Facebook pages, said anyone fancy knitting some Christmas decorations for the station, and then drove around Blaydon picking them up. He got a fantastic response. And we do that because it's a great way of just shouting out about the station to the local community, getting the local community involved. And at Blaydon, we've had many comments on social media saying, I didn't know we had a station. When did we have a station? I didn't know that. So it's a great way of just advertising that we do actually have a station and that you can commute or have a day out by rail. We get schools involved and young people involved as well. This is Lanercost Primary School with the mosaic that they did at Brampton. Unfortunately, we've had to put the mosaic inside the waiting shelter at Brampton just to protect it because it was getting a little bit, didn't quite like the Cumbrian weather, so we've moved it inside. But that's a team at Brampton just getting ready to plant up some planters. Projects. Well, I've already mentioned taking the wall to Glasgow Central, and that sort of leads me on to some of the other promotional projects that we've done. If you've been to the Metro Centre in the last couple of years and you've walked over the railway bridge, maybe to get to the car park, or maybe because you've come by train, then on that bridge, you will have seen this large graphic. We did that because Intu at the time offered us the space. It was quite a white boring, not a lot on that bridge. So we put on a map and just some ideas of the places that you could go by train. So that graphic has been there now a couple of years. We unveiled it, or we asked the Department for Transport, one of our colleagues was coming up for a meeting, and we asked Carl if he would be kind enough to unveil it one day, and we did. He also was greeted by one of the Metro Centre metronomes, and I'm not sure he's ever been hugged by a metronome before. I think he reckoned it was one of the highlights of his career, was being surprised by a metronome. Carrying on with the promotion theme, I'm sure many of you will have seen this image on social media. This was a project that we were very pleased to finally get off the ground. For some time, people had said to us, can you do anything in the winter? Can you give a shout out to the places that are open in the winter, to the fact that the landscape is sometimes at its most stunning and most impressive during the winter? So we tried for quite a while to actually just pull all that together and think of a way that we could actually do it. And finally, it all came together with some funding from TransPennine Express in late 2019, early 2020. And the funding helped us to produce a couple of leaflets, one which looked at the 5 towns, and all that copy that we put in the leaflet was actually written by our community ambassadors. So we went to our team and said, what is it your community wants to shout out about? What is it that you would say to someone, come and visit Corbridge because, come and visit Hexham because. So we're very pleased to be able to do that, because I think that really helps when you are standing on a cold, very cold platform in Yorkshire, and someone says, well, why should I get on a train and come and visit the Tyne Valley? You can hand them a leaflet and say, well, it's not me saying this, This is what the communities want you to know. So that's really good, a really good thing to do. And the other leaflet there is a walk from Bardenmill to Sill, and we're very pleased that the National Park was able to sponsor that leaflet. So the idea was to pop up at stations, hand out leaflets. We decided we needed to be quite visible, but be able to move. So although we had a pop-up that stayed inside, but we needed to get out of the waiting area and catch people as we're coming into the station, getting off trains. And so Julie came up with the idea of, why don't we have sandwich boards? Why not indeed? And our marketing director managed to figure out a way of making sandwich boards. They were very effective because people could actually see what you were handing out before they got to you. And so they were more inclined to take a leaflet when you were wearing a sandwich board than when you weren't. So I would certainly recommend considering doing that if anyone's standing at a site anywhere. Difficulty comes when you try and blow your nose, answer your phone, or eat a sandwich. The last thing they are is sandwich friendly because you can't actually get your hand to your mouth. But we were delighted with that. We had all sorts of mechanisms in place to measure the impact we had made. There's various codes that people could use, and businesses supported us with offers. So we were looking forward to measuring that and hoping that we'd made a bit of an impact and people had got on a train and come to Hexham, etc. And then, of course, a pandemic struck. I think the last one that we did was just in early March. So we sort of hope that somewhere one of those leaflets is still in the bottom of someone's work bag and they've shaken it out and said, oh, that's something I need to do. So yeah, that's what we try and do to make a difference. So what are we working on now? Well, there's lots of things going on. I've put in this rather odd picture because I think it makes several points. In the grass there, you should be able to just make out a stone block with two holes in the middle. And I wonder if someone instantly knows what that is or whether other people have got some ideas. That is a stone sleeper block. It dates right back to the beginning of the railway line, so when the line was first put down. If you look in the top right of the picture, you will see the modern day equivalent, which is a long strip of concrete to which both rails are attached. And the problem with these square blocks was that only one rail was attached at one time. Stevenson was very keen on this arrangement of fixing rails. Others of his contemporaries weren't so keen. He was very keen on the idea, and the first directors of the line went with his technology at the time. However, very quickly, it was discovered that the weight of trains, the weight of carriages, pushed those stone blocks apart, so the rails didn't remain in gauge. But this area is all about work stone, stone wall, and also those bits of stone from the railway. You will see them up and down the valley, and someone has told me that they've even seen two of them up on Hadrian's wall. So keep your eye out for them. It's certainly stone dispersal of another variety, and hopefully soon you'll see that on Haltwhistle station with a little interpretation plaque explaining that. But I like to point that out to kids as a way of explaining that Stevenson was undoubtedly a fantastic brain, could problem solve, his mechanical knowledge was phenomenal, but even Stevenson could get it wrong sometimes, and that technology evolves. So what was good enough for the early 1830s when Stevenson came up with that idea wasn't good enough by the time the line really got going in the late 1830s. So things always change. One of the projects which we received funding for shortly before lockdown is called Our Place. It's developed by a PhD student at Newcastle University at Open Lab in Newcastle University. And it's a free app, and it is full of activities or full of templates for us to pour in our own activities so that people can get off at a station and see what's available. And there may be lots and lots of different types of activities. So some of it may be quite a lot of text. It may give you the history of a feature or of a place. Others may be designed for kids. So it may be a photo quiz. Where's this? Where's this photograph taken from? Or it may be some questions that you have to go and find the answers for. So there's lots of different ways that you can package copy on the app. Now, you might wonder why we got funding for something that's free to download and free to use. And that's because we wanted to employ a couple of project officers to create some really good quality activities. And if we create them for our place, then we can use them for school groups. We can perhaps put them on a leaflet for families. We can do all sorts of different things to encourage people to get out and explore the local environment. We've done quite a bit of work on it during lockdown, but it got to the stage, obviously, where we needed to test it with a lot of people, and we just haven't been able to do that. We haven't been able to say to a group, there's a rail pass, get on a train and test this app to destruction almost. So as we come out of lockdown, as hopefully life begins to return to normal through late summer, then hopefully we'll get back to working on that one. Now, something different that we've been working on both just before lockdown and through lockdown is going back to music. I said we would return to music later on. So this is our musical interlude. This is something a little bit different. You will see there that is a certificate which says first place in the category of involving diverse groups at the Community Rail Awards in 2020. That first place we're delighted with. It followed on from Julie's first place in 2019. So we're setting a little bit of a target here to get 3 in a row, but we're absolutely delighted with that. So let me tell you a little bit about the Lyric and Line project. In 2019, a singer-songwriter who you may well have worked with, Gareth Davis-Jones, an award-winning singer-songwriter from Wylam, approached us with an idea to use music to work with many of the communities along the line. We looked at his proposal and board said, yes, let's do this. Let's start by working with 3 distinct groups who might find travel or independent travel on the line a little bit of a challenge. We want to see what the barriers are for travelling, how we can improve those barriers, and generally capture the ideas, capture what people think about travelling by train. So in 2019, Gareth worked with Journey at Hexham, who had not been regular rail users, hadn't gone out as groups on the line very much, although certain individuals did use the train. Zigzag in Haltwhistle, who were just beginning to really get to grips with travelling by rail, but still had a lot of nervousness. And Gibbside Special Needs School in Gateshead, just above the Metro Centre, who had been out on a few class visits from the Metro Centre station up to Haltwhistle. And Gareth was able to accompany the school on one of those visits. So I'm going to just stop sharing and then line up and play to you one of the songs that Gareth wrote. So he wrote this with Gibbside School. They came up with the words, and Gareth said to the class, has anyone got an idea about how they would like the song to sound? And one of the little girls hummed him this song, this tune, and he made some notes, made a couple of tweaks. So both the music and the lyrics have entirely come from the kids. So because it's so rare these days to actually just hear kids singing in a group, I'm going to play this one. Let's hope the sound works.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. was exciting, it felt good going on the train. It can take you where you want to, like the time we went to the soft play. A journey, an adventure, it was great going on the train. A journey, an adventure, it was great going on the train. Out the window we saw birds and trees, we saw horses and we saw sheep. We went in the tunnel and we felt nervous because the tunnel was very dark. A journey, an adventure, it was great going on the train. A journey, an adventure, it was great going on the train. Very well done.
Never finished.
So I hope you enjoyed their singing there. I'll just go back to PowerPoint for a minute. There we go. Now, unfortunately, that came to an end we just managed to finish it when lockdown hit. There was a few follow-up activities we wanted to do, but that has to wait for another day. So we worked with those groups, and then we had another idea. Last summer, we started to think that perhaps we might be able to get out and about a little bit more, and we thought perhaps that was the end of lockdowns last summer. So we worked with Gareth again, and Gareth pulled together people who had been passengers, hadn't been passengers, and asked them about their feelings about getting back on trains. Were they happy to do that? Were they unhappy? What do we need to change? And that produced another 4 songs, really recording what people thought about travel as we were coming out of the pandemic. It also produced a song about cycling and trains. And those of you who cycle will know that taking your bike on the train should be a relatively easy process. And you'll know that sometimes it can be far from easy. So we wrote a song about that, and that has really helped to push that conversation forward with Northern. So there's going to be some impact, I think, that we can track back to doing that piece of work and gathering those thoughts and ideas from people who are cyclists and who just want to take their bike on a train or a day out. So that's what we've been doing with music. So that brings music right up to date from the 1840s. So it's a long time that the line's been playing with music, I think. Now for something, again, a little bit different. I'm part of a steering group that have been working to deliver something that we have called Backtrack Competition. In 2020, one of my colleagues, just a few weeks after lockdown really hit in March, April 2020, pulled together a number of education officers working in community rail, a number of those of us who do everything in community rail, just to check in with people, make sure we're all right, see if there was any way we could get education materials into schools, just keep track on people. And at one of those early meetings, Network Rail came along and they said, could you run a poster competition to alert people to the dangers of trespass? Because in the first 8 to 12 weeks or so of lockdown, trespass across the country had gone up by something like 25%. And there was a great concern that this wasn't safe and could lead to fatalities. We looked at that and thought, well, poster competitions in the middle of lockdown when the poster's going to go on the station that you're not allowed to go to might be a little bit tricky. So why don't we try and widen that? Why don't we try and bring that concept up to date, but ask people to write a song or make a video or write a storybook or maybe just map out what they would do with video, make a storyboard if they didn't want to do the full video. Last year, we ran it purely for 11 to 18-year-olds. We were delighted at the quality of entries, and we have been using those entries with schools, with young people right across the country. So I'm now going to escape from this again, and I'm going to play you the compilation of the winner's video. If you're wondering how on earth you could write a song about rail safety, about staying off the tracks, then here you go. Here's the answer. So let's make it full screen and let's play it.
It's dangerous on the train track, they might just not be in your face. Keep a safe distance when you're waiting for a train. Behind the yellow lines, it's just fine, not any other way. There's 25,000 volts rushing through the cables there. The red circle with a line through it means no entry there. Stop and think you do, you don't think it's right.
Imagine your mum or dad or someone you know is a train driver. Every day they could be affected by people messing about on the railway line. This is extremely dangerous and could affect a train driver's life forever, as they may never be able to return to the job, and the effects can be life-changing.
Don't go on the tracks, please play nice. Don't go on the tracks, you might pay the price. Train breaks takes time, don't keep thoughtful pictures in line. Trespassing, get penalised, speeding, change signals to green. Behind line, the yellow line, okay, stay behind the yellow line, okay, behind line, the yellow line, okay, stay behind the yellow line. Don't go on the tracks, it's not safe. Don't go on the tracks, just in case. Don't go on the tracks, please play nice. Don't go on the tracks, you might take the price.
Wasn't that absolutely fantastic? We have been playing those, as I said, we've been playing those songs and videos because we believe that if you show a young person some work done by a young person, it becomes much more real. And if you ask someone to engage creatively, then that message hopefully begins to sink in. Now, the good news is that the competition is open again this year in 2021 and closes at the end of September, closes the 30th of September. And this year we've taken away the age restriction. So anyone over the age of 7 can enter. There's some great prizes. There's GoPro bundles of cameras. There'll be some spot prizes as we go through the summer. And there's also money can't buy prizes. So that might be a shot in a train simulator, a driving simulator, or it might be a tour of a depot, so on and so forth, right up and down the country. So what we're looking for is anyone who fancies getting involved and giving this a go to create a short film, a storyboard, a script, a song, and then upload that to the Backtrack Competition website. So if you want to search Backtrack Competition, you will see that on social media and you'll find the website as well. Now, wouldn't it be fantastic if we had a Roman themed rail safety video? We're asking people to make sure that they don't do this anywhere near a railway. It's got to be done home, school, usual place of work, usual place of gathering. But if you could do something with Romans, that's my challenge, because then we can use that right across the country and it's another way of promoting the area. So I'll leave that with you, and I really look forward to seeing a Roman themed rail safety video. You didn't think it was possible, did you? Right, quiz time. Who was paying attention during that dance routine? This is from Network Rail. A train on the Tyne Valley Railway at speed. What is the equivalent stopping distance? So from the minute that the driver hits all braking systems, how far will the train travel until it comes to a standstill? A, B, or C? There are a few of these sort of calculations that Network Rail have done to try and make it more visual for children and anyone to imagine how dangerous it is to be on the line. And one of them is about elephants. And they say that the weight of a train is a bit like an elephant hitting you. And that's all well and good until one of my colleagues was at a school in Glasgow and she used this example. And it's coming to the end of her little session, and she thought, well, that's good, there's not many questions. And a little boy put his hand up and said, please, miss, when you said an elephant, it's the weight of an elephant hitting you, is that an Indian elephant or an African elephant? Because they're both totally different weights. So she went home and Googled and discovered that they were indeed totally different weights. So yes, you've got to well think out anything that you use with children. So if I've inspired you to go and have a day out by train, then head over to the northernrailway.co.uk website and have a look at the ticket choices. There are lots of different tickets. You will have seen some of them being profiled in the media, the flexi tickets. I think it's 8 days of a season ticket to use within 28 days. So you might want to have a look at that if you're going back into the office 2 or 3 days a week. There's a range of Rover tickets. Have a look at those. That allows you unlimited travel over a certain period, certain time frame. Duo tickets if you're traveling with someone else. So please have a look at the different ticket options if you want to go for a day out. If it's a confusing mixture, which when you look at the screen, maybe you think, oh, I just need to ask someone, then pop into Hexham. Hexham is a staffed station and the staff there really do know their way around tickets. So if you're going just on the line or you're going over to Cumbria or you're going down to London and you want to know the best ticket option, then go and have a chat with them because they're very, very knowledgeable. And remember too, if you're going out for the day, then the AD 122 bus has an improved timetable. So go and have a look at that as well. And the fun is planning the day out, isn't it? You can have lots of fun planning the day out. So how can you help us? If I've inspired you tonight to find out even more, then what are the areas that we're looking for some help with? Well, hot off the press, many of you will remember the little kiosk. I've mentioned it before at Hexham Station, the little tea and coffee kiosk. Unfortunately, Journey have had to say that they can't reopen that at the moment. They still have many clients who are in the vulnerable category, and putting them at a station, serving tea and coffee is a difficult ask at the moment. So board have just given permission for us to explore turning that kiosk into a pop-up space. That's quite the rage in economic development at the moment. We haven't quite, we need to make some progress with this, but we're looking at perhaps theming that for a different theme each day. So perhaps Mondays might be arts and crafts and a meet the maker strapline. Maybe Tuesdays are try it, and we ask some of the attractions that we work with up and down the line whether they want to come and put up a stall in the kiosk. With the AD 122 festival next year, with 1900th anniversary next year, then maybe there's people who want to use that little space as a performance or a demonstration space. If you've got an idea, please drop me a line, because we've got a blank diary there that we hope to be able to fill as we move into late September and October. That'd be good. We're on the lookout for someone who really knows the schools in the Tyne Valley very well. We've had a lot of support and help to develop activities, to map our activities to curriculum. So if you like, the paperwork side is in place, but we're looking for someone who's got the contacts with the local schools, who can go in and out of the schools and say, look at this great offer, it's free, come and book your class in now. So if you know anyone who's maybe taken early retirement from schools, but doesn't want to just walk away from working with schools or kids, then give us a call. And hopefully we can blow the dust off another project, another funded project, which was called Explore Haltwhistle. So training some volunteers to be at Haltwhistle station just to provide some initial orientation. So pointing people to the Tourist Information Centre, pointing people to the wall, explaining transport routes to get up onto the wall if there weren't walkers. So obviously that had to go into abeyance over the last year or so. If that excites you, if you'd like to receive some training, if you want to be part of that project welcoming people at Haltwhistle, then again, please drop me a line. So that's the end. I do have, of course, to reveal the answers to the quiz. So I hope. And the first one, the answer was B. There are 14 stations between Newcastle and Carlisle, excluding those two great cities. One day we would love to make it 15 and open the station at Gilsland. We're working very hard on that, so let's just keep our fingers crossed and see where that one goes. Number 2, when was the old booking hall at Haltwhistle opened, or when was it built? And the answer was B again, 1855. And 3, how much money have we raised to refurbish the 2 wooden buildings at Haltwhistle? The answer to that is C, £500,000. So when I tell you that, you see why Julie was awarded outstanding volunteer contribution in Community Rail, because she really did drive that funding, and we wouldn't have achieved that goal so quickly if it hadn't been for Julie taking the reins on that. And number 4, the rail safety question. How long does it take a train to stop? Again, that is answer C. That's 20 football pitches. So we use that to say to kids, to say to anyone, you can't run 20 football pitches, so don't go on the track. You can't outrun trains. So there on that slide are all the contact details. Have a look at our website. It's being changed week by week, so please do go and pop in there. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're right across social media. TVCRP on all of them. Please do go and give us a follow. Any questions, then please drop myself or Anne, our marketing officer, an email. Our addresses are there. I've also put on the URL to the Backtrack Competition. Please go and have a look at that. And if you know anyone who's creative with songwriting, with video making, then please point them to our competition. And then the 2 final URLs there, Northern Railway one for tickets and Go Northeast for AD 122, so that you can go plan a really enjoyable and worthwhile day out in the area by public transport.